There's a question that never stops. It comes back at night when everything is quiet and nothing helps. Why does evil exist? Why does suffering exist? Why does a child die? Why does a just man lose everything? Why does God seem to turn away at the exact moment you need him most? There's no answer that holds, not in the way we're used to looking for one. No formula, no system, no manual. But there's something greater than an answer. There's a story, several stories in fact, and they all say the same thing in different ways, that we cannot see far enough. Think of Job, a righteous man, one of the few the Bible describes that way, without qualification, a man blameless and upright. He has a family, livestock, land, everything that in the ancient mind meant God was looking at you with favor. Then, in a few verses, he loses it all. His children dead, his livestock taken, his body covered in sores from the sole of his foot to the top of his head. He is sitting on a heap of ashes, scraping his skin with a piece of broken pottery. His wife tells him, "Curse God and die." 3 friends arrive. They sit with him in silence for 7 days, until Job opens his mouth, until he begins to scream. And then the friends speak. They explain. They say, "You have sinned. You must have sinned. Otherwise, this would never have happened to you." Evil is punishment. Suffering is consequence. The accounts always balance. They are wrong. God will say so explicitly in the end. "You have not spoken of me what is right." Job, on the other hand, demands an answer. He insists on it. He shouts it at the sky. He refuses the silence. He refuses his friends' explanations. He wants God to show himself and say why. And God shows himself. He speaks from the whirlwind, a voice in the vortex. He does not answer Job's questions. He asks his own. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Who shut in the sea with doors when it burst out from the womb? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades?" It is not an answer. It is something more devastating than an answer. It is the manifestation of a greatness so disproportionate that every human question, however legitimate, however agonizing, turns out to have been built on the wrong scale. Job falls silent, not because he has been silenced, but because he has seen something, something that had no words. Isaiah puts it plainly. God himself speaks. "My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." It is not an excuse. It is not God's way of evading the question. It is a measure of the distance between the one who sees everything, from beginning to end, and the one who lives inside a single moment, a single season, the pain of a single day. We are looking at a thread. God sees the tapestry. We see the back of it, with the knots, the apparent disorder of colors. He sees the front, the whole image. Joseph. His brothers throw him into a pit. They sell him to merchants. He is taken to Egypt as a slave, betrayed, forgotten, imprisoned. Years of darkness. Years in which any human logic would say, God is not there, or if he is, he doesn't care. Then Pharaoh dreams. Joseph interprets the dream. He becomes the second man in Egypt. And when his brothers arrive to beg for grain during the famine, he is the one who has it. He is the one who can save them. He tells them, "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life." Think about that sentence. God sent me. Not the treacherous brothers, not chance, not bad luck. God, through betrayal, through slavery, through prison, using evil as a corridor toward good. But the most extreme case is the cross. An innocent man, the only truly innocent one, arrested, tried on false testimony, flogged, crowned with thorns, nailed to wood. He dies between 2 thieves, abandoned by his own, his mother at his feet, Darkness at noon. If there is a moment in history where evil seems to have won, it is that one. If there is a moment where God seems to have turned away, it is the voice of Christ crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And then, 3 days later, the stone rolled away. The greatest evil in human history becomes the greatest good. Death becomes a door. Defeat becomes victory, not in spite of suffering, through it, inside it. Paul writes to the Romans, "We know that all things work together for good to those who love God." All things, even the things that burn. Some saints knew this, not in the abstract. They knew it in their bodies. Francis of Assisi, ill, nearly blind, the stigmata causing him pain. He composes the Canticle of the Creatures, praising God for our sister bodily death. It is not madness. It is someone who has seen enough to no longer be afraid. Teresa of Avila, years of spiritual dryness, interior silence, prayers that seemed to bounce off the ceiling. Once, after an accident during a journey, she told God, "If this is how you treat your friends, it's no wonder you have so few." It was not blasphemy. It was the language of someone familiar enough with God to speak without filters. Paul of Tarsus. The list is staggering. 5 times the lash, 3 times the rod, once stoned, 3 shipwrecks. He writes from prison, "I have learned in whatever state I am to be content." I have learned. He was not born that way. He learned it through pain. None of them understood everything, but each one had surrendered to the idea that failing to understand does not mean there is no meaning. Here is the point. We are not called to understand evil. We are called not to be devoured by it. Job does not get the explanation. He gets the presence. God in the whirlwind. And that presence is enough. It is more than any answer. Faith is not the certainty that everything will go according to our plans. It is the certainty that there is someone holding even the things we cannot grasp. The thread that looks broken is still part of the tapestry. The discordant note we hear is inside a symphony we are not yet able to hear in full. And perhaps, only perhaps, the moment we cry, "Why?" is the moment we are closest to Him. Because at least we are speaking to Him. Because at least we are looking for Him. Like Job on the ash heap, a shard of pottery in his hand and his skin in pieces, who nonetheless never stopped addressing Him. That is already faith, perhaps the truest kind of all.